My name's Sheldon Menery. I'm the founder. Let's call me the founder of Commander. I didn't actually invent the game. I didn't invent the mechanics, but I certainly was the person that put it all together and brought it into the public light and sort of nurtured it from the beginning. So creator's not quite right. Founder, I'm like the Abner Doubleday of EDH. The format started with some friends of mine up in Alaska, and they kind of played it casually once or twice, and it was 5 people, each with one of the Elder Dragon Legends as their general. And I kind of looked over the shoulders once, because we had this really big local gaming group, and we hung around together all the time. And I kind of looked over the shoulder as they were playing once, and kind of shrugged a little bit. And then the next time I did some thinking about it, and we did a lot of talking. This was sometime in mid-2002. And we did some talking about it, some ideas for making the format a little better, because there was a gentleman's agreement to not play non-basic 8, because it was, at that point, even basic lands were singletons. And other than that, there were no ban cards, it was just play. And we started doing some talking, David Pfeiffer, Adam Staley, some of the sort of founding guys. We did some talking about it, but we never actually got around to playing with the format. And I moved to Virginia in early 2003, and still had the format in the back of my mind. And when I found a new Magic group, sort of casual groups, hey, what do you think about trying out this format that I brought with me? And they said, sure. And soon it was all anybody wanted to play. So it's 6 or 7 guys that got together every Sunday at my house and played Magic, and it was multiplayer free-for-all for a while. But then, well, let's try that EDH thing again. At some point, it's a long time ago now. It's almost a decade ago now, so I'm not. Some of the dates are a little fuzzy.
Of course.
I brought it to the Pro Tour, and brought some decks with me that I had built, and played with some of the judges, and it took off like wildfire. We played at Worlds 2004, so that's probably September-ish 2004, a big sort of EDH invitational with some of the judges like Geese Hogendijk and the Yaprauer, some of the big names of Magic judging at the time. And it was just a huge success. I'd written an article on Star City about it, and even did a contest to build a Lord of Tressorhorn deck, and just started bringing the decks that I had to the Pro Tour with me and playing with the judges. Well, it was only 1 or 2 Pro Tours until people were bringing their own decks. So we just kept playing. Well, what are we going to do after we eat tonight? Well, we're playing EDH. That's what we're doing. And then the first Pro Tour I head judged was Atlanta 2005, and Scott Larrabee and I had been pretty good friends for a long time by then. And it was like, do you want to play with us? I was like, sure. And I handed him the Lord of Tressorhorn deck from the contest, and about 6 turns in, he's like, I'm hooked. So Scott was the one that was actually responsible for taking the format back to Wizards of the Coast and getting them infected. So there's this sort of parallel virulence of the format as the judge community starts playing it. And, of course, players see us after the event having a great time, because there's always a lot of epic things happening. Hey, what are you doing? And soon enough, non-judges were playing it. And then websites started turning up and more articles and people writing about it, the only format that they wrote about. And, then, of course, we got to the explosion of the format, that it was big enough that Wizards of the Coast wanted to do something with it, and first made it online, and called it Commander. Commander's a reasonably good name. It doesn't violate any copyrights. And once the online thing started, more people started playing it. We get more requests, people coming up to me at the Pro Tour, hey, do you think I could play a game with you? And so forth and so on. So we just rode the crest of the wave until the Commander product came out, and then then we saw a new explosion of people getting into the game. And the Commander product is certainly one of the best things that ever happened to the format. It made cards available to people that weren't yet enfranchised, and building a Commander deck can be a really daunting proposition. Every time I sit down to build one, I'm like, oh man, it's going to be a lot of work. And I think one of the things that the decks did was give people this great starting point, and then they certainly, none of those decks stayed together in their original form for long. Like, oh, I don't like this card so much, I'm going to put this in, and ooh, I need a greater good instead of. So they do what you do with Magic. We love tinkering with our Magic decks, so we just let people go, and there are leagues, there are websites, there's crazy amount of online play. So the format's definitely arrived. I think it's the best format in Magic, quite honestly. I mean, I love the competitive formats, but the social format, there are no more laughs at Magic tournaments, at Magic events, than there are when people are playing Commander together. Because something crazy is going to happen. Some guy playing the Tristani deck with 3,200 life is going to slap that Sarah Avatar on the table and get ready to attack for 3,200, and somebody else is going to go, I think I'm going to Tysus your Sarah Avatar. Take 6,400.
Yeah.
So it's the format. It's beer and pretzels Magic. I really think you can play it. Half the time we're playing, even when we're playing the league at Armada Games, you're half paying attention because you're socializing with people. You're not dead focused on a lot of combat math or whatever. Because, I mean, you want to win, you want to do well, you want your deck to play well, but in the end, it's way more important that you had fun while you were doing it than the fact that you actually killed everybody. Fun cards. Well, I just did a deck tech with Uriah Oxford this morning through CMDR decks, and I brought my Ruhan of the Fomori, you did this to yourself deck. It's the deck is full of big lulls, like when somebody plays Exsanguinate for 50. Like, Exsanguinate, kill you all. Hang on for a second. Paraelectric feedback that. And that was the deck that was the card that actually got the deck started. And I'm a fan of Repercussion and Blasphemous Acts and crazy things like that. Mirror Strike. Mirror Strike is always a good card. The biggest no-no to me is not caring about the experience of the other players. The biggest no-no is actually being a griefer or a fun wrecker. If you're there to make other players not play the game, then I think that's bad. Now, stacks and land destruction and whatnot strategies are perfectly viable. I certainly played those kind of things in competitive Magic. In Commander, I think the best thing is to let everybody play the game and have the opportunity to do stuff, and then because those are where we have the really interesting things happen. When everybody has the opportunity, I'm not saying don't strip mine their Academy ruins, but Joyra, Suspend, 2 Eldrazi, Obliterate. It's effective at winning the game, but it's not effective at the group having fun. There's just a lot of shrugging. So that, unless, of course, if you got 4 people who that's the kind of Commander that they love to play, and they're all playing together, more power to them, because they're getting their enjoyment. I don't expect that everybody enjoys Magic the way that I enjoy Magic, or enjoys Commander the way I enjoy Commander. So the problem generally is when there are cross goals in the group, and everybody's like, let's play some fatties and do something odd, and then there's the one guy who's like, well, let's stack some smokestack and yeah. Other than that, there aren't too many cards that I think are really all that bad that aren't banned. Yeah. One Mindslaver is fine. Recurring Mindslaver makes me shrug a little bit. But there are a few cards that when somebody plays them, you go, really? You want to be that guy? It's hard to say. It's the good news is that it's not going to be a static format. New cards are going to come out. Some of the new sets are coming out for Magic all the time, and that means you're going to have not only new cards to stick into your existing decks, but new archetypes and new strategies that before Return to Ravnica came out, like on some of the two-color commanders, and then there was a lot of monocolor and a lot of three-color. Everybody had a wedge or a sharp, and an occasional five-color, and occasionally you'd see a two-color deck, but for the most part, it was 1, 3, and 5, and then Return to Ravnica got us back into the guilds with some really good commanders, some really, really good legendary creatures. I mean, I love my Animar deck because something's always happening. Maelstrom Wanderer, obviously, another really, really popular card in that wedge. So I think that there's a little bit of a static nature to most Eternal formats. Legacy and Vintage. They don't change. That there's not this big shift to the plate tectonics in format. Yeah. Whereas I think in Commander things are just going to keep growing, and you're going to come play with you go to your local game shop and play, and you just don't know what you're going to see. And I think we're going to see more of not knowing what you're going to see as we go into the future, because we're going to have more choices and more choices and more choices and better choices. And it's not the same. It's the same old Vant deck. Yeah. We're gonna see a lot of stuff, because one thing about Commander players is they love, like we talked about earlier, they love their tinkering. They love coming up with a new idea. There are some people that have a deck and they fine tune it, and they get cards for it, and then there are people like me who have a problem and keep making them. My Rurik Thar is my 23rd deck. And I have a plan to build one of each color combination. So there's 27 if you count colorless. If you count Karn, or I guess an Eldrazi, but Karn's the one. Karn's the one. Yeah. So then I'll have 30. I've got 7 more to build. I got all the monocolors, so 7 more. So that that gives me 30. That's going to give me 30 decks. I feel sorry for some of them because they don't get played very often. I got them up. I got them all up on a shelf. I'm like, what am I going to take to the store this week? All right, I don't want to play that. Oh, poor Obsidat. I haven't played Obsidat in a couple of weeks. Put that in the bag. So there's a choice not only of what I'm playing, but what's getting carried along in case I could play 5 or 6 games in the course of the day. So circling back around to answer your question, there's more of what we have, and I think the expanding base is going to get more people infected in the format. We see the next time we see a Commander product, there's going to be unenfranchised people who are going to go, cool, now I can get in, because again, it can be a really daunting thing to start, like any format really, but get more cards, get more cool things, because there's always new mechanics, and there's block mechanics that you're going to explore to build your deck with, and there are color combinations you're going to explore, and it's going to be the same with more. Thanks for having the website. Thanks for promoting the format. Thanks for being big fans of the format, because the format's nothing without the people that love it. If it was just a thing, you're going to make friends in your life playing Commander that are going to be friends when you're not playing Magic as well. And that's one of the strengths, I think, of social format is you're going to be driven to play with the people that you want to play with, not the people you're forced to play with. When you go to a tournament, you don't have any choice about who you're playing with. But in Commander, it's all up to you. We don't see eye to eye on how we want to play this format, so I'm going to play with some other folks instead. And you're going to play with people that you have a social connection with, and they're going to be friends long after you stop playing cards. They're going to come over your house for beers, and you're going to see all the cool movies together.